Hello, Adam, MidPointe Library's Digital and Special Collections Archivist here. Today's video will be a highlight of notable locals. Those presented are just the tip of the iceberg of all the notable people from the area, so make sure to leave a comment about a notable local that didn't make the list. Our first notable local is Private First Class Patrick L. Kessler. Born on March 17th, 1922 in Middletown, Private First Class Kessler was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for single-handedly capturing a machine gun nest and 16 prisoners during combat on May 23, 1944. Sadly, Private First Class Kessler was killed in subsequent action 2 days later on May 25, 1944. Private First Class Kessler is presently buried in Woodside Cemetery, and the Armory on South Main Street in Middletown is named in his honor. Next is General and Judge Ferdinand Van Derveer. General Van Derveer was born in Middletown, Ohio on February 27, 1823. He was a local lawyer until the Mexican-American War broke out, at which point he enlisted in the 1st Ohio Volunteers. When the Civil War broke out, General Van Derveer organized the 35th Ohio Infantry and would go on to be promoted to Brigadier General by the end of the war. After the Civil War, General Van Derveer returned to Butler County, becoming a judge. Laurel Thompson, a native of Monroe, Georgia, spent close to 50 years of her life in Middletown. Miss Thompson was the proprietor of Thompson's Beauty Salon, a lay minister, and an avid volunteer. In September 1987, she began to prepare and serve meals for those who were in need, lonely, disabled, or shut in. Using her own money and donations from the community, Miss Thompson established the Feed the Hungry Project and the Dream Center, located at 834 Yankee Road in Middletown. Both are still in existence to this day and are dedicated to fulfilling Miss Thompson's original goals. Lotelia Oxberger Compton was born on the Chisholm farmstead in 1859 to Samuel and Elise Holly Oxberger, both of whom were of German Amish Mennonite ancestry. Her grandfather was Christian Oxberger, Chisholm's original Amish Mennonite settler. Miss Compton received her education in the public schools of Butler County and at the Western College for Women in Oxford, Ohio. Upon her graduation in 1886, she became the first Mennonite woman in America to graduate from college. She married Elias Compton of Monroe, Ohio in 1886 and moved with him to Worcester, Ohio. Miss Compton received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from the Western College for Women, Oxford, Ohio in 1933 and was chosen as American Mother of the Year by the Golden Rule Foundation in 1939. George C. Kraut, a long-time Middletown resident, was an educator and local historian. Mr. Kraut started off as a teacher before eventually becoming a principal from 1951 to 1975. Outside of education, Mr. Kraut was dedicated to local history, publishing 15-plus historical books. His most prolific contribution to local history was his weekly article, The Middletown Diary, that appeared in the Middletown Journal. The article ran from 1959 to 2001. In the process of writing the article in his books, Mr. Kraut put together a collection of manuscripts, photographs, ephemera, and more that was donated to the library in 2000. That donation led to the creation of the Library Lens, now known as the MidPointe Digital Archives. Photographs from Kraut's collection can be seen in the aptly named George C. Kraut collection. Mr. Kraut was also involved in the creation of the Middletown Historical Society and the development of the Canal Museum. Jerry Hart, a native of Hot Springs, Arkansas, was the host of The Jerry Hart Show, a WPFB radio employee for 28 years, and WPFB's program director from 1978 to 1982. The Jerry Hart Show was a live interview and variety program. The show also served to host charitable causes, something Miss Hart was heavily invested in. She founded the Jerry Hart Dental Fund, the Teenager of the Year Award, and the Radio Heart-a-thon. E.B. Banks, a Middletown native and 1929 graduate of Middletown High School, was a man of first. In 1947, Mr. Banks became Middletown's first black mail carrier. Mr. Banks then became the first black member of the Middletown City Schools Board of Education in 1974 when he was appointed to fill a position. In 1976, Mr. Banks was elected to the board and served until 1982. Additionally, Mr. Banks served as a member of the Middletown Public Library Board of Trustees, as a project director for the Retired Senior Volunteer Program for the Butler County Council of Aging, and was a member of the Human Relations Council. Dr. Mabel Gardner, Middletown's first woman doctor, was born on July 3, 1883 in Camden, and moved to Middletown when she was around 16 years old. She attended Otterbein University for pre-med education, then became one of the first two women to graduate from the Ohio Miami Medical School, now known as the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine. She returned to Middletown in 1914-15 to practice medicine, at which point she became Middletown's first woman doctor. Dr. Gardner was a founding member of the American Medical Women's Association and president of that association from 1947 to 1954. She was a clinical instructor at the UC College of Medicine, Middletown Hospital's chief of obstetric staff, and instructor of nurses. She was president and secretary of the Butler County Medical Association, an Otterbein College Board of Trustees member, and a member of the Middletown Board of Health. Jay Lucas, Middletown native, is a highly decorated amateur and professional basketball player. During his high school years, Mr. Lucas led the Middletown Middies to state championships in 1956 and 1957 and left with a record of 76-1 in his 3 varsity years. He then played collegiately at The Ohio State University. Those Lucas-led Buckeye teams would win the 1960 National Championship and be runners-up in 1961 and 1962. Over the 3 years Mr. Lucas was eligible to play, the Buckeyes went 78-6. Mr. Lucas moved on to professional basketball in 1963-64, and over his 12-year professional career, he played for the Cincinnati Royals, the San Francisco Warriors, and the New York Knicks. During that time, he was named All-NBA First Team 3 times, All-NBA Second Team twice, and NBA All-Star 7 times, and NBA Rookie of the Year in 1964. Kayla Harrison, a Middletown native, is a renowned judoka. In the 2012 Olympics, Miss Harrison won gold in the 78-kilogram judo category. In doing so, she became the first American, man or woman, to win gold in the history of judo. She repeated the feat, winning gold again in the 2016 Olympics. Outside of Olympic glory, Miss Harrison won the 2010 Judo Championship and gold at the 2011 and 2015 Pan American Games. Miss Harrison now competes in mixed martial arts and currently has a record of 8-0. Chris Carter is a Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver. Mr. Carter was born in Troy, Ohio, but moved to Middletown as a child. He graduated from Middletown High School, where he became a star football and basketball player. Over Mr. Carter's 16-year professional career, he amassed 1,101 receptions, 13,899 receiving yards, and 130 touchdowns. He was named to the Pro Bowl 8 times, was a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and a second-team All-Pro. In 2013, he was named to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and his number 80 was retired by the Minnesota Vikings. Merrill Went, a Middletown native, was one of the city's first big football stars. Born in 1915, Went played football for the Middletown Middies during his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. Highly recruited out of high school, Went attended The Ohio State University. At Ohio State, Mr. Went became a 3-time All-American from 1934 to 1936. Mr. Went's teams defeated Michigan 3 straight years by a combined score of 93-0. Mr. Went turned down professional football to pursue a career in chemical engineering. While not quite Hall of Famers yet, Jordan Hicks and Ryan Kelly, both Lakota West High School alumni and teammates, currently apply their trade in the NFL. Jordan Hicks graduated from Lakota West in 2010 and was a high school All-American and winner of the High School Dick Butkus Award in 2009. From there, he attended the University of Texas, graduating in 2014. He was then drafted in the 3rd round and has played for the Philadelphia Eagles and, currently, the Arizona Cardinals. As for Ryan Kelly, he graduated from Lakota West in 2011. He attended Alabama University, winning 2 BCS national championships and a college football playoff national championship. He was named a unanimous All-American in 2015 and awarded the Remington Trophy. In 2016, Mr. Kelly was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts with the 16th pick in the first round. For the Colts, Mr. Kelly was named to the 2019 Pro Bowl. Middletown's first millionaire, Paul J. Sorg, was born in 1840 in Virginia. He eventually made his way to Middletown and became involved in the tobacco business, heading the P. J. Sorg Tobacco Company. With his wealth, Mr. Sorg and his wife, Suzanne Jenny Groover, built the Sorg Mansion and funded the Sorg Opera House. In an 1894 special election, Mr. Sorg was elected to represent Ohio's 3rd District in the 53rd Congress. In the regular election that same year, Mr. Sorg won a full term. Mr. Sorg was also responsible for the creation of the Paul A. Sorg Paper Company after he purchased the paper mill for his son, Paul A. Sorg. Middletown's modern industrialist George M. Verity came to Middletown via Cincinnati in 1899 when he founded the American Rolling Mill Company, better known as Armco. Under Mr. Verity's leadership, Armco would become a leading steel producer. As Armco grew, so did Verity's involvement in Middletown. Dubbed Middletown's first citizen, Mr. Verity pushed for many community-led projects such as the Middletown Library and the YMCA. Edward Willis Scripps, or E.W. Scripps, was a newspaper publisher, and businessman. He's best known for developing and bringing about the emergence of the modern American newspaper and newspaper business. Scripps founded the Cleveland Penny Press in 1878, later the Cleveland Press, which became the basis for his massive newspaper conglomerate. Eventually, his company, the E.W. Scripps Company, owned 25 different newspapers. In 1883, Scripps came to own the Cincinnati Post, and in 1890, he launched the Kentucky Post in Covington. On October 7, 1885, Scripps married Nackie Holtzinger of Westchester, Ohio. In the same year, he built a home in Westchester, which he maintained for the rest of his life and used as his legal residence. While Mose and Phil Collin may have started what is now Cohen Recycling, it was Mose's son, Wilbur Cohen, that took the business to new heights and laid the foundation for the company. Outside of business, Mr. Wilbur Cohen was very involved in Middletown. He was president of the Middletown Chamber of Commerce, president of the Middletown Industrial Council, campaign chair of the Middletown Area United Way, and a member of the committee that brought Middletown Miami University branch. He was the 34th recipient of the Distinguished Service Award presented by the Middletown Jaycees, as an All-American Citizen in 1992, and a recipient of the Dick Slagle Life Achievement Award from the Middletown City Commission. Additionally, Mr. Cohen was on the Middletown Hospital Board for 42 years, serving as its president from 1982 to 1990. Mr. Cohen passed away this past March. James Middleton Cox was Ohio's 46th and 48th governor of Ohio, as well as the Democratic nominee for president in 1920. Outside of his political career, Governor Cox founded and ran a sprawling newspaper empire that continues to this day as Cox Enterprises. Born James Monroe Cox in Jacksonburg, he would make a name for himself in Middletown, where he moved in 1886. An apprentice to Paul J. Sorg, Mr. Cox started his newspaper conglomerate with the purchase of the Dayton Evening News, which he renamed the Dayton Daily News. Mary Lord was a local Middletown lawyer and the first woman member of the Middletown City Commission, now known as the Middletown City Council. She joined the commission in 1963 and was elected to 2 at-large terms. Outside of her role as city commissioner, Miss Lord was an accomplished lawyer. She received the inaugural George H. Elliott Distinguished Community Service Award from the Mid-Miami Valley Bar Association. She was also awarded the Outstanding Woman of the Year by the Middletown Business and Professional Women and was named Citizen of the Year in the 1980s. James Choppy Saunders was a prominent Middletown politician. Mr. Saunders was born in Middletown on January 7, 1919, and became the first black man elected to the Middletown City Commission in 1970 and served for 16 years on the board. He was the city's first black commission chairman, or mayor as the position is known today, a position he held from 1982 to 1986. Mr. Saunders worked for Armco Steel for 42 years, retiring in 1985 as Corporate Supervisor of Government and Community Affairs. He was the first black foreman at the Middletown Mill. In addition to his role as City Commission, Mr. Saunders served in various leadership roles for many organizations such as MidPointe and the United Way. Grandson of George M. Verity, Calvin William Bill Verity Jr. was U.S. Secretary of Commerce in the Reagan administration. From 1980 to 1981, he was chairman of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and, in 1981, chairman of the Task Force on Private Sector Initiatives. Here in Middletown, he was involved with the United Way and was chairman of the Board of Directors and CEO of Armco. And last, John Boehner was the 53rd Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, serving from 2001 to 2015. Speaker Boehner represented Ohio's 8th Congressional District from 1991 to 2015. While he was born in Reading, Ohio, Speaker Boehner eventually settled in Westchester. And here he is at the opening of the Westchester Library. And that ends today's video on notable locals. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.